Chair recognizes the lady from Johnson, Representative Levin.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, colleagues of the House. Thank you to so many who have made their way back to their seats. It's gratifying to know that so many are listening and paying attention. I cannot be forced to give up any part of my body or my health, even to save another person's life. I cannot be forced to give my friend a kidney or even to donate blood after a natural disaster, a process with a very low chance of negative impacts on me and one which I choose to do freely, but cannot be forced to do against my will. Even after death, we do not procure organs from folks who have not made the choice to register as donors. All of these decisions fall under our right to bodily autonomy, a right which Americans hold incredibly dear. Yet somehow, once an egg is fertilized, some politicians in this building assert that bodily autonomy is gone. No government should ever have the power to force a human to go through a pregnancy and give birth. That decision, every single time, must be in the hands of the person who is pregnant, their health care providers, and the family and friends they involve. Regardless of the reasons that an individual determines to bear a child, to not bear a child, that individual has to bear the weight of that decision, and therefore no one else has the right to make that decision. I have made choices about my own reproductive life, both before I was married and since. That right belongs to all Iowans. The right to decide whether to engage in sexual activity, the right to decide what medications or barriers to employ or not to employ, the right to decide whether to restore their menstrual cycle or to continue a pregnancy, whether unexpected or desperately wanted and planned for. We cannot know the myriad of factors faced by individual Iowans and their partners in deciding whether to start or expand their families. So why are we taking away their rights to make the best choice for their families? More seriously, we have heard over and over today that the implementation of rules that will guide physicians to interpret this bill will be the responsibility of the Board of Medicine. Yet the bill, in one stark difference to its predecessor, is effective upon implementation. What are our medical providers supposed to do as they wait? A law hanging over their heads with no guidance on the rules or penalties to which it will lead. Finally, I would like to speak to another aspect of this debate. At present, we have 2 medical schools in Iowa, and I am constantly grateful for them, as so many of the compassionate, well-trained graduates choose to remain here in Iowa and to take care of Iowans. We face shortages in all medical fields, but particularly in physicians statewide, and we need to increase the access to doctors, not reduce it. Yet medical students are not going to choose to come to a state where they cannot become fully trained. And if they do not learn here, they will not likely come here to practice. Terminating a pregnancy is a serious decision, which requires knowledge of the specifics of the situation. The people best positioned to make that decision are the ones that have that knowledge and who will experience the consequences regardless of the outcome. Banning termination of a pregnancy, specifically in the weeks before so many even know that they are pregnant, is a particularly egregious disregard of the public interest. To take away Iowans' options before they even know they have a decision to make, decisions that will impact every single moment of the rest of their lives, this is wrong. Thank you for your attention, and please reject House File 732 on behalf of the majority of Iowans who have made quite clear their position.
Chair recognizes the lady from Johnson, Representative Levin, for the second time.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, colleagues of the House, for the incredible opportunity to speak for a second time on this. The haste to pass this bill severely limited one of my most treasured parts of the democratic process, opportunities for legislators to hear from constituents. For that reason, I have spoken to some Iowans and want to share some of the things we discussed. Today, lawmakers will decide the fate of reproductive rights in Iowa. We expect this body to deny the right to abortion, although the majority of our neighbors express strong support for legal abortion. Among adults under age 30, 74% say abortion should be legal in all or most cases, as do 62% of adults in their 30s and 40s. Of those in their 50s and early 60s, 55% express support for legal abortion, as do 54% of those ages 65 and older. The Kaiser Family Foundation survey of OBGYN doctors revealed the following. 68% found the Dobbs ruling worsened their ability to manage pregnancy-related emergencies and worsened pregnancy-related mortality, racial and ethnic inequities in maternal health, and decreased the ability to attract new OBGYNs to the field. A restriction on reproductive rights violates the 13th Amendment, which guarantees equality. A forced pregnancy puts just over half of Iowans into a servant caste, a group held subject to a special duty to serve others and not themselves. Women represent 56.8% of the U.S. labor force in 2022. While abortion has declined in Iowa and the U.S., forcing pregnancy will negatively impact the economy. Child care deserts exist in Iowa. If and when parents can find child care, it is at a premium cost. This spring, the governor and leaders in the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services refused a $30 million federal grant to support child care services. Criminalizing abortion will not stop abortions. It will make abortion less safe. Criminalizing abortion is a form of discrimination, which fuels stigma. Deaths and injuries from unsafe abortions are preventable, but these deaths are common where access to safe abortion is limited or prohibited. Iowa lawmakers cannot defend or justify a vote to deny Iowans their reproductive rights. A vote to ban reproductive rights is a vote against women and against equal rights. From one of my constituents. I prize my liberty. Chief Justice Cady understood liberty. Autonomy and dominion over one's body go to the very heart of what it means to be free. At stake in this case is the right to shape for oneself without unwarranted governmental intrusion one's own identity, destiny, and place in the world. Nothing could be more fundamental to the notion of liberty. Nothing. There is nothing in the world more fundamental to liberty than bodily autonomy and dominion over one's body. We recognize this when we recognize the right of a person not to be touched without permission in the Iowa Code, Section 708.12a. We recognize this when we recognize the rights of a person not to be confined against their will, Section 710.1. We recognize this when we recognize the right of a person to decide what will happen to their corpse, even if that corpse's organs could be used to keep another person alive, Section 142C.34d. What the Iowa legislature proposes at present is to take away the right of half of all Iowans to dominion and autonomy over our bodies. If this bill passes, we will not be able to decide not to be touched for 40 weeks. People already, for some reason, feel free to touch pregnant bellies anytime they want to. I have 3 children. Again, her words. So I know how much touching is involved in pregnancy care. Probing and pushing, measuring everything, vaginal exams, IVs, vaccinations and blood draws, monitors strapped to the belly, catheters, needles in the spine. Some of these touches are painful, some are dangerous, to say nothing of the birthing process itself. Imagine every single one of those touches and prods and needles being unwanted but avoidable. And those are just the unwanted touch elements. There are many, many other indignities of pregnancy that no person should be forced to endure against their will. No one. If this bill passes, we will not be able to decide to avoid the confinement of pregnancy for 40 weeks. I have endured early labor, Braxton Hicks contractions, bed rest, muscle cramps so severe that I could not walk, the ungainliness of a pregnant body, the inability to tie my own shoes. I have affirmatively decided to accept this confinement each time I went through it, and my pregnancies were relatively easy. Imagine every indignity, every physical limitation, every severe pain, every lifelong effect of pregnancy being unwanted and unavoidable. If this bill passes, we will not be able to decide whether or not our organs will be used to support another life. We will have fewer rights than a corpse. Imagine having fewer rights to bodily autonomy and dominion over one's body than a corpse. Imagine, as Justice Waterman wrote, believing that trash set out in a garbage can for collection is entitled to more protection than a woman's interest in autonomy and dominion over her own body. I prize my liberty. The question today is, does the state legislature of Iowa prize our liberty, or does it want to give Iowans fewer rights to our own bodies than to a corpse or garbage left out for collection? I say this for the second time, and this is my own words now. Please vote no on House File 732 tonight. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion,